So we are recording, and I'm going to be admitting people.
Okay. Let me see.
I don't see your screen just yet.
Yeah,
Now I did.
Sure.
It looks like it's coming on. Yep, I see it. You just need to go into full screen mode or present mode.
Yes. But I prefer to stay like this so later I can change to my browser because
Got
I'm
it.
going to be
Do your
sharing
thing.
something on the
Sounds
browser
good.
too.
All right, sounds good.
All right, guys, if you guys can see my screen, just give a thumbs up so I can know that all of us are on the same page. There's a reaction, a thumbs up. Yeah, something like that. You can raise your hand, give a reaction, so I know that you can see my screen. That is saying, let's get certified strategic preparation for Microsoft certifications. So in this session, we're going to speak about how to prepare for taking some Microsoft certifications. And our main goal today is DP-800, but this approach, and I have tested them with 6 certifications that I have passed on the first attempt. But so we're gonna focus on DP-800, but you can try these with all other certifications from Microsoft. And not even from Microsoft, because I also did one of these strategies with the certification from Databricks. So going keep on going. Something about me. My name is Ladislau Andre, and I am a solution architect. I work as a data analyst, data engineering. I'm switching now to a more specific data engineering role. And I have these certifications from Microsoft, Excel as associate, Excel expert, DP-900, Power BI, Fabric Analytics Engineer, Fabric Data Engineering. And to take these certifications, I have developed this approach of this strategy while preparing to one certification. And indeed, I will do the same when I take the certification DP-800. So what we're gonna cover in this section is more how to structure your preparation for any Microsoft certification exam and to avoid this disorganized studying, because many people go to take the certification, they don't know where to start. They're starting from this source, from other source, and then it's everything at once. And then when you have actually your exam day, you don't feel completely prepared, or you feel it, but still you don't pass for your certification. And this approach or this strategy dramatically can improve your probability to pass the exam. So the exact method to pass other certifications, and I'll show actually some things in my browser, how I do it. So we can not only be theoretic, like only do theory, but also show how I do it in practice. And here, first, we should know how is the exam before we start. For me, before I start an exam, before I start studying, I just go, all right, what is this exam? What are the skills measured in the exam, the domains and the weight? It's also really important to know the weight so I know where to focus more. And sometimes doing some case studies, understand if the exam has case studies or not, how does it work? And the update of the exam is also really important to know. The limit, the time limit and the number of questions the exam has. Knowing all of this before you go to take the exam helps you significantly reduce your anxiety, because sometimes you go to the exam, you think it's going to be 40 questions, you find there 58. It's like, can I do it in time? Will I be able to do it? So this anxiety sometimes make us fail the exam, even though we have studied well and prepared well. So knowing what to expect from the exam helps you remain calm and increase your probability of passing the exam. And for example, let us all do everything, practice and theory. If I would know, I want to know about the DP-800, I go to my browser, DP-800, and then I already have here the peer. And from here, this is the main page that I like to use. I come here and I read every single bullet point about the exam, every single bullet point, so I know what are my lack of knowledge. And sometimes it can be everything. It's okay. We don't have to be worried about it, but it's good that I start getting familiarized with the topics of the exam. All right, design and implement tables. What's this? Do I already know something? This is also good to know how long do I need to prepare for the exam. Sometimes there are a lot of topics that I already know. So I know, right, because I already know many topics that are here, I need 1 month, 2 months to prepare for this. I read exactly every bullet point about the exam before I start even studying for the exam. This is this point. And then on second point, I try to have a complete overview of the tool, of the concepts of the exam, a complete mental map, or sometimes I find a course. And in this time, I really do a deep search, trying to find the best content out there. A lot of times I save courses, readings, anything that I can find useful, like going from zero, from A to Z about this concept. If there is like the exam DP-600, DP-700, there are already a lot of materials, YouTube videos talking about the exam from A to Z. So I can have a general idea. But it's important to know that this is not enough to make me pass the exam. It's just for me to have a general idea of what is possible to do with this tool, what is out there. Because when I know, all right, I can do real-time intelligence in Microsoft Fabric, it's okay to know it. But then later, I know I can go deeper in this knowledge and do some case studies, read more documentation about it. So it's always good to search for good content out there about the tool or about what's covered in the exam from A to Z. There are Udemy courses, Microsoft has the Learn. You can go through the Learn, but I don't go to the Learn that much because I prefer to use the documentation, what I'm going to show later. Also, taking the practice assessment. This, after I take a course from A to Z, all right, I already have the general knowledge, but I don't have a deep knowledge about it. I don't know it to the core. I have a general idea of how does it work, but then now I want to go deeper on the topics. And this is what I do. I use the practice assessment from Microsoft that is really good, and I use it to study. For example, if I come to this exam and I go to the mockup, let me see, where can I take up free practice assessment. This helps me a lot. Usually I do this 10 times, so I get familiarized, and it's good. I'm not taking this to have the best score. I'm doing this to study. All right, I did it on purpose. Okay, I made a mistake. This is good. Then I'm going to study this. What is this? What was the correct answer? And I always click here on these links that Microsoft gives to you so you can read more about it. Here, I'm going to the core. I'm going deep on this topic. Prepare to use Apache Spark. Okay. I read all of these, sometimes whenever possible. If I can follow along and do a demo, a tutorial, or do a practice about this, I will do it so I can get a deeper understanding of what is this. I come here, I read it, but this came to the Learn. Usually I prefer when it goes to the documentation. The Learn, you read it, documentation, most of the times there are another useful links that you can go and you can really go into that concepts. I keep doing this, all right? Sometimes if I don't have time To read this, I just click on the links. I saved my bookmarks. Come here, I found a bookmark. For example, I'll come here and I'll put DP-800 readings. Then I know that later I have a lot of bookmarks that I have to read when preparing for the exam. Come here, I read this, sometimes I do it, and I keep going with the learn. And I can do this. What I recommend is at least 10 times before you take the exam. Sometimes I couldn't do 10 times because it's a lot, but it's what I recommend. I think after doing this 10 times, you will feel completely prepared, and you will know what are the main questions that are coming, or at least the questions in the exam doesn't come like this, but the idea, the concepts, the topics, for example, here we're talking about pipelines. You know that pipeline is going to come in the exam. But if I click on these links, then I'm going to go deep in this concept of pipeline. When can I use? Where can I use? How can I use? What are the drawbacks of using it? What are the benefits? And then I can only do this. I want to find a link that will take me to the documentation, which is here. I prefer always the documentation. Here, I'm going to read this, and a lot of times they're talking about something and they have another link. And sometimes it's really, that's why this study is extensive, because I will click, all right, you can also deploy content programmatically using deployment pipelines REST APIs. If I don't know about this, then I'll click on this link and I have to read it too. I have to know what is this. So a lot of times I'm going to read this, but these links, I can click it and get to know more about this. That's why I prefer documentation, because they go in depth in each concept they're gonna refer to. And usually at the end, there are some things that it's really useful. If you come here, let's go to the end. All right, I like this. Considerations and limitations. It's really important to know what are the limitations of the specific part that I'm studying, for example, pipelines. What are the limitations of pipelines? General considerations and limitations that I should have. This is really important to know, because in the exam, they can put you one question, but because of some limitation, it's not possible to do that way, and we have to be aware. So that's why it's always good to read the documentation like this. I always go to the end, and sometimes these useful links, deployment pipeline rules, I come here and I go reading. And other times, if I have more time to study for the exam, I look here and I can also click in one link that I know, all right, I don't have so much knowledge about variable libraries, then I'll click it and try to go a little more to that. And this is what I use to use the practice assessment and deep study. That's why I say deep study, because I go deep in this, and in the documentation, you can find a lot of readings that you can follow along and practice. Sometimes I do a YouTube video, because doing a YouTube video, I have to explain what I'm doing. And then I know the limitations of my explaining. I know if I cannot explain what I'm doing, then I didn't understand it completely. So they say, like, you learn 90% if you're teaching this to someone. Teaching is a good method. So even though I won't publish that video on YouTube, I try to do a video explaining, or pretending that I'm doing a YouTube video and I have to explain that concept. Then I'll find the lack of knowledge that I have about that topic. This is where I know that, all right, I'm really feeling prepared for the exam. And this is what I was already talking about, the hands-on practice. I can do that with the links that I'll have for the documentation. Sometimes, if I do a deep search, I can find specifically things to practice about DP-800, or if I already have some knowledge, I'll think, right, I already studied, I had a overview course from A to Z, and I did some mock-ups. All right, I want to practice that topic. I want to practice that other topic. I can do my own practice if I know. Otherwise, I can find it on the documentation, on Learn, or other resources. Also YouTube. Then the hands-on practice will help me a lot to get the understanding, to see what I'm studying, the theory, like in practice, how it's working. And then my best tip, I think this helps me a lot, because the previous ones, it's good for you to have the knowledge. These ones is for you to pass the exam, because that's why I see a lot of people, they already working with Power BI for so many years. Then they go take the exam, they're like, I don't need to study because I work with Power BI more than 5 years. But then they go take the exam and they fail, because this is an exam like what Microsoft thinks is a best practice. That's why these keywords matter. Best practice is not what you think, is what Microsoft, which is the company that developed this tool, thinks is the best practice, and they have tested that. So sometimes you can fail because you don't consider these kind of keywords. In that kind of situation, what's the best practice? What's the most cost-effective solution? If you're thinking of moving data, what should you use? What's the cost-effective solution? You should know this and have this in mind. Least privilege when you are defining row-level security. When you have this in mind, you know what the exam will ask, because a lot of times they'll make questions and they are like, in this consideration, always take into consideration the least privilege. Also high availability, security, performance, scalability. So depending on the keyword that's going to be used, your answer could change. That's why it's really useful when you do the mock-up exam from Microsoft, because these keywords gonna appear a lot. Least privilege, security, scalability, best performance, and cost effectiveness on that specific case. It's really worth it to do this. And one thing that I do also is taking notes. When I take notes about this, I do a keyword strategy. If they ask me for the DP-600 exam, if they asking me if you want to move data or doing it ETL with transformation using a low-code or no-code solution, in my head, because I have these keywords, ETL, low-code, no-code solution, I already know instantly that it's data flows Gen 2. Why? Because I have the two keywords, ETL and low-code, no-code solution. So many times there is a big question in the exam, and I have to read a lot, but I will focus on the keywords, because many times what makes us lose time in the exam is we try to understand, because the exam questions are really big sometimes, and you have to understand that, and you're going to lose time. But if you search for your keywords, all right, ETL, low-code, no-code solution, data flows Gen 2, I'm almost sure. And when I'm doing notes, when I'm studying for an exam, I take my book and I'm doing a lot of notes. Question 1, I'll really write like this: ETL, low-code plus low-code, no-code solution. Then I equal data flows Gen 2. For other cases, I will always follow this keywords pattern, because when I'm doing the exam or doing the mock-ups, because I also try with this technique with the mock-ups, when I see the keywords, I almost sure know what is the right answer. And this helps me a lot to gain time. And if for any case, because I will gain a lot of time doing this technique, if for any case I didn't, I finish my exam and I still have time, I can expect these answers that I rush a little bit in case I did it. But this helps me to gain a lot of time. And then when there are like study cases, I can lose more time on that questions. But this keyword technique helps me to gain time in the exam. And when I have more time, I don't feel so much anxious, because when you're only on question, you know that there is probably 50 questions and you are on question 20 and you only have 10 minutes. Of course, you're going to get anxious. You're going to try to respond everything quick. So using this technique, you're going to gain a lot of time, and consequently, you're going to feel more calm and take your time responding to questions. And really, really important. What I don't do is memorize dumps. There are a lot of websites there. If you search for one test, you're going to find websites that you have to pay and they offer you the exam questions and answers. And because these exams are always updating, they cannot definitely give you the right question and answers. And if you focus on that, mainly you're not going to learn the concept of that, because if you're doing the certification, you probably will work with that eventually. And then because you did the dumps, you don't know how to do it. So this is what I don't do, and rely only on courses. That's what I was doing. What I was saying, before you do a course from A to Z, that is not enough. Even that you're working with the tool, you did a course, that's not enough. You have to study for the exam. And also studying without knowing the exam, that's what makes a lot of experienced analysts, experienced professionals fail the exam, because they think that, all right, I know this tool, I don't need to study for the exam, I just do the exam. You can fail because you didn't study for the exam. And start preparing before the exam. Always, even 1 hour before, I study for the exam, but I only use my notebook where I did my keywords matching. I don't do no extra more, only my notebook, and I see what everything that I wrote, my notes. This is what I do before the exam, because if I wrote there, then I'm gonna do a recall about the topics, everything that I wrote. And usually there are 50, no, 30, 40 lines that I wrote, and only with keywords. ETL, local, no code, that flow gen 2, and I go through all of my notes before the exam. This is my study in the day, usually in the exam day and one day before. And then skip wrong mockup answers. Like we should always skip this wrong mockup. We shouldn't skip wrong mockup answers when we are doing the learn, and you made a mistake that is good for you to make you learn. All right, I did a mistake. Why is this mistake? Try to read more about that. Try to get an understanding of that answer, that question that you failed. Because in the first time that we do the mock-up exam in Microsoft Learn, we're gonna make a lot of errors. And that is actually good, because we're gonna learn with that. And then I have this checklist that I know that I'm confident to take the exam, read the skills measure of the document. Usually I already did this before I scheduled the exam. I can read every single bullet point, understood the exam format and question types for those that are taking Microsoft certifications for the first time. Is really good for you to understand how the exam is, how the format of the exam, the question types. It's really good, and Microsoft has a lot of videos on their YouTube channel. How is the exam? So knowing that helps you a lot to be confident and know, right, how the exam questions will be structured. And then the other checklist is completing the full learning path, either by using Microsoft Learn, you complete the learning path, or doing a course from Microsoft YouTube videos or other resource. I did that, right? I feel more comfortable. Then I did a lot of mock-up exams and review all wrong answers. I feel more comfortable. I did some practice hands-on with the tool. Then I read relevant official documentation, and always I review my strategic keywords in the day of the exam, before the day of the exam, so I can do a recall, that is a studying technique, and then feel confident, not anxious. What actually made me feel more confident, it's funny, because I put on my mind, all right, I will fail this exam. Like, I consider the worst case scenario. I'll fail now, schedule this exam again. Then I feel like confident, because I'm not, all right, If I fail, there is no problem on that. I can always schedule the exam again. And just to take my anxiety off, because if you don't feel anxious, you're going to read the questions more carefully, because the way the questions are structured, sometimes we can miss one simple word that makes all the difference. And then I do this for me to feel confident in the exam, and this helps me a lot to pass the exam. Well, this method has worked until now with 6 Microsoft certifications, and all of them in the first attempt. I always schedule 2 exams followed by one. For example, I schedule Microsoft DP-600 and I had already a voucher for to schedule again DP-600. But all of the times I was passing on the first attempt, and it was because I was using all of these strategies that are talking to you, and they work. And I will really be really glad if you guys try this strategy out, and then you pass the certification, then you tag me on LinkedIn that this helped you. And also I have a YouTube video talking about this strategy, but it's in Portuguese. And that is it. This is not a theoretical method, exactly how I prepare, and it's how I'm going to do with DP-800. And if you guys are connection on LinkedIn, you will see it in the next month. So that's all from my side. If you guys have any question, I would be really glad to answer, or if you guys have anything to add, if you guys have done a certification and want to add something to it, the stage is yours.
Yeah, feel free to come off of mute and say hello. We're so happy you guys were all here. We know it's a super long event. You spent half your day with us, and we really appreciate it. And I will be getting out all the vouchers that you guys have requested this afternoon. And just really just ask for compliance, because that not only helps you, but really helps me have the opportunity to get more vouchers in the future. So continuing to support our community as we all look to upskill and get our certs. Ladislao, that was excellent. And you were saying you had a video on some of this in Portuguese, and you'll be joining us next week. We bring this event to YouTube next week, just because we're trying out different formats, and we do this format specifically because it's part of our student ambassador requirement for our quarterly events. But I'm now getting the opportunity to sort of mix and match students and professionals as I make my own transition out of the student ambassador community and into the professional community. So again, thank you everybody. Let's just give Ladislao a round of applause. Excellent. I learned a lot about your strategy, and I really appreciate it. And I say that as someone who will not just has the DP-600, 700, 800 on my runway. I've taken the 800 now. As beta, and now I'm just waiting to get my results back. But if I don't pass it, I'll certainly set it again, and maybe much more prepared on the JSON part of it, which is where I knew I fell apart. But the ones I'm actually going to be sitting in the next 2 weeks are SC100 and SC300, because it seems like like I'm a data person, and it's just interesting to me when I look at the job world, how siloed data is from cybersecurity. So it's really weird because like I just see like all these jobs that are cybersecurity roles, and I'm like, okay, I'll apply over there. Or I see jobs that are data, but it's just weird. I'm like, where's the data security role? I just don't see it. But that said, I want to just be super skilled up on both sides of the house, and so then I'll see where I land. But yeah, I've got my applications out into the world. But in the meantime, I'm just going to enjoy hosting events, creating content, building community, and doing the things that I love, and learning and taking exams, and yeah, seeing us all sort of succeed in this together. And it has been a really great event. I think I can give you guys some of your time back. I don't need to hold you all here if you don't have more questions. I think we covered a lot of ground today. I want to just sort of reiterate and thank all of my speakers from today, starting with Maduna, Aradia, Demir, Ladislao. Thank you for joining me. These things to me are so much more fun when we do them together in community and get everybody to sort of share the stage. And of course, thank you all to everyone here. Many of you have been at past events. I think that's how you got the invite. Some of you may have found me through my social media channels, and I do encourage everybody, please follow all the speakers, stay connected, and click through all the follow-up resources that we send you. And we'll go from there. I'm going to give you back 15 minutes. Go enjoy your day, your afternoon, your evening, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.